Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Captain Clyde's MTG, and today we're going to look at the new standard deck I made, Mono Black. That's right, made another black deck. Brr. But this is the deck I'm running in the Standard Metagame Challenge and doing pretty well with it, and I've seen many popular black decks through the Metagame Challenge as well, and we'll talk about that a little later. Uh, but first, remember, always subscribe, trying to get to 1,000 people, and I really would appreciate it. So without further ado, let's take a look at what I'm running during the standard metagame challenge. So we'll pop right in here. Uh, so I've been running this new deck here. We'll go to deck edit. So as you can see, we're starting off, we're running 4 Evolved Sleeper. This is probably going to be one of the heyday cards of the new Magic standard. I talked about how good I thought this card would be, and it is. The ability to get it out early and quick before anybody can counterspell it, because there are some blue decks floating around, and the ability to pump and draw cards off of it are just phenomenal. Not to mention, at 2, it gives Death Touch to itself, which helps you deal with larger creatures later in the game. 4 Knights of Dusk Shadow. Now, I'm not going to lie, this thing is boss. This is also probably one of the first cards that comes out, though. Here's why. Sheoldred and a lot of other life gain abilities are in this format, and people are really using them. This prevents them from gaining life to try to stabilize and live longer. Not to mention, this is probably better than the white one. I really thought the white one would be better because it has first strike. But this thing having menace means people just can't block it. Like, if you have this out, lay a planeswalker, and a planeswalker can make one thing, you're still going to kill the planeswalker because you can pump this creature, +1/+1, and they can't block with their one blocker. So planeswalker's dead, mission accomplished. The card's amazing. Not to mention it prevents them gaining life. Also, the ability to not pump this so that when someone tries to target it with the new black one for 1 black, kills anything power toughness equal 5 or less, or if they try to shock it in some red spell, you literally can pump it once, make it a 3/3, and avoid all those kill spells. Done it several times. It's very nice. And you know what? You don't have to pump it when you punch somebody in the face. You can always pump it later, as long as you leave enough mana up, especially when you end up with a lot of mana in the late game, to not just keep it alive, but have it deal lots of damage. Tenacious Underdog. As usual, you guys knew this would be a really good card. We talked about it a lot. It's really starting to shine now since there's not a lot of graveyard hate. So try to keep that in mind. A lot of graveyard shenanigans are going on. So be careful. You have to have something to deal with a graveyard. Q, the Graveyard Trespasser. So I've talked a lot about how I love this card in previous standard, and it's even better now. And everybody who's playing black should be sporting this thing. It's a 1 black starter for 3/3. You start exiling cards out of people's graveyards so they can't reuse them. It nerfs a lot of their abilities. It's just an amazing card. There's no reason not to run it. Not to mention the Ward discard a card. I mean, it's basically 3 mana discard 2 spells. Yeah. Hero's Downfall. What else can you say? Destroy target, whatever you want. Creature, planeswalker, those are the big things in the format. This is a good catch-all. I know people are using other cards that are a little cheaper, like the 2 mana, take 2 damage, kill a creature. But what I don't like about those cards is there's a lot of planeswalkers floating around. I ain't gonna lie to you. I like the ability to target planeswalkers first. And the sideboard, you can deal with that and fix those kind of things, but I think you need both. Yeah, who would have guessed Liliana the Veil? My girl's in the deck. Only play 3, don't play 4. They're okay in most formats. I'm going to be honest with you. It's honestly a 3 mana targeted player sacrifices a creature, which is great when you have things like Graveyard Trespassers and other things that you can't target, uh, on the battlefield. I very rarely use the plus ability. I did ultimate her once against a blue-white deck that was control. That felt good. Um, they were using Silexes as part of their board wipe strategy. One thing to remember, you have to have some form of Planeswalker in your new standard deck, and here's why. There are not board wipes that take care of Planeswalkers, but there are board wipes that take care of everything else. So you need Planeswalkers to be stable, so that you force a board wipe, you have something to fall back on. And then obviously we get into the big boys. We have Sheoldred, we got 3 of those. 4/5 Death Touch. Probably should play more, but honestly, I don't really care. This is often a lightning rod that gets killed almost immediately. But even against blue decks, especially blue-white decks, because of the Wandering Emperor, never swing with this. Put it on the playing field, let them draw cards to their heart's content until they're just dead. That's how that works. Sorin Mirthless, again, this makes a total of 5 Planeswalkers. This is a great Planeswalker. I thought about upping his Planeswalker total because he is pretty good. But honestly, I think he's a little expensive. But when he comes down, especially against certain decks, he's just amazing. 5 mana Invoke Despair. I'm sorry, guys. I am such a big fan of this card and what it does. It's just disgusting. This is the only thing that's 5 mana in my deck. There's only 4 of them. I'm running 24 lands, so it can be hard to get to sometimes. But more often than not, this thing just cleans house when it comes up. Plus the ability to get an enchantment, a creature, and an artifact, help wipe the board, or draw cards for you, is just bonkers good. March of Wretched Sorrow. That's why I found this card to be very useful. Now, of course, it's basically a black fireball you gain life from, but the key words on this one is it deals damage to a creature or planeswalker. So this is another way to deal with planeswalkers and creatures, making it very versatile and very good. And, if you're only on 3 land and you got to kill something that's 5/5, and you got to invoke Despair in your hand, guess what? That invoke Despair is going bye-bye, and that creature on the battlefield is going to die. It gives you that versatility to use extra cards in your hand or cards that you won't be able to cast for a while, so you can actually not get too blown out by things like that. I think this is a great card. I think we're going to see a lot more of this get play as we move on. Next, we have, obviously, the Meathook Massacre. Reason for this, one thing. Another reason you want to play March of Wretched Sorrow, there are a lot of red burn decks that are fast, quick, and in a hurry to just deal you damage. And the ability to just go, I'll lay my 4th land, and I'll blow your thing up for 3 and gain 3 life. Or I'll lay my 5th land and blow your thing up for 4 and gain 4 life. Is just disheartening to them, along with Sheoldred, where you're gaining life when you draw cards, and so forth and so on. There's so many things you can do against that mono red deck that this here is really just a powerhouse to help out. So, and of course, like you guys just saw, Meathook Massacre's in there. A lot of decks are playing Massacre, so be careful how many creatures you play out. Honestly, I know this is going to sound bad. You almost have to play a Massacre to counter other Massacres. That way, because you lose 1 life, they gain a life, can actually swing a battlefield to a point where you can't attack or you can't block. So you almost have to start these to see what kind of deck you're up against, and then maybe take them out later as you actually go through and, figure out what kind of deck you're playing against. Do you leave them in because you're playing against a creature deck, or do you take them out because you don't need them? So, something to keep in mind on. Next, we have 22 regular swamps and 2 abandoned mires. Now, I've almost thought about taking out one of these out. Matter of fact, I think I will. I think I will take this down 1, take this up 1, take this down 1, and take this up 1. I have had games where I've had 2 Mimires in my hands and couldn't get to 3 mana because of it. And that's just heartbreaking because 3 mana is really where the deck starts humming. There's only a few select cards that are higher than that, really. So you can go back to 2 if you want, but I'll be honest with you, there's not many times I've actually used this, but it probably would be a good backup plan. All right, so what does the sideboard look like? It looks like this. Obviously, we have your standard 3 Duresses. Again, this is for the control players or any other player trying to do some kind of weird shenanigans where they ramp or do something really big so you can get stuff out of their hands. And to go along with that, I have 2 of the Raven Man. A 2 mana 2/1 is just fine. I might put more of him in here to be honest with you, but against control decks, the ability to lay a Raven Man and to make them start discarding their cards and getting Ravens is amazing. Also, those Ravens are creatures that they have to deal with that they can't counter. They become very good. I like this a lot. I think I might even put more in here when it's all said and done. Also, we have Debt to the Kami. There's actually 3 of those. 2 of them are down below. There is an enchantment deck floating around. This does help a lot with that. But also, too, it says opponent exiles a creature. This is even better for when you come up against other black creatures that run, the Graveyard card, the Tenacious Brawler, or a Graveyard Trespasser of their own. You target them, not the creature, and it exiles, so it's a really good card. Extra Graveyard Trespasser in the side, in case I need it for Graveyard Shenanigans. I do have 3 Infernal Grasp. Like I mentioned, this is a cheaper, better way to kill creatures. If I'm not running against anything where I need life totals, I can take out the March of Sorrow, especially if I don't have Planeswalkers to put a cheaper removal spell in. 2 more debt to the commies. 1 last Hero's Downfall, because once again, this is a catch-all, kill-all. And because of the Raven Man and other things, we have a No Way Out. 2 No Way Outs are great because you get to discard cards plus get a black zombie. It always helps. Goes real good with the Raven Man. I may take time to adjust this deck to more of a Braids style. I had Braids in it to begin with, so I could sacrifice my Decayed Zombie to make him sacrifice creatures. But I think that's a different kind of deck style I want to play. So I'm going to have to look into that later, see what we come up with. So, there you have it, guys. There's my mono black deck for standard currently, and I'm running through the metagame challenge and pumping out all kinds of decks. I think I pretty well broke even on cash. I think I started at around 116. You can see up here around 115, so I'm doing well, and I think I've scored around 40, 50 packs. But you guys won't see this after the metagame challenge is over, but don't worry. There's only a couple hours left, and everybody and their brother has figured out how good this deck is, because I don't know if I've played it so much that people have seen it, or people are finally figuring it out, because this style of deck is everywhere. So without further ado, don't forget, guys, like, comment, subscribe. The comments down below are going to feed that YouTube algorithm. The notification bell, don't forget. If you've done everything you can to support the channel, thank you. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. For those who've already subscribed, or those who just don't feel like subscribing, that's fine. There's links in the description. You want to help support the channel by buying cards on the eBay store. There's a Patreon for a monthly subscription that gets you some free swag and other things for your monthly donations. And link to the email to my store if you just want to reach out and say, hey. And don't forget, guys, until next time, be kind. And as always, I hope to see you across from the game table.